Alright, time to dive into this 66 Vox pacemaker. Now I've got to undo a lot of stuff that I'm not going to be using to make room for the stuff that I will be doing, including some filter cap locations and stuff. Much has been said, a lot of ballyhoo out there in the internet about point-to-point wiring. And most people, when they say point-to-point, they don't really mean point-to-point. They're using it as a catch-all. And they're referring to a board like a Marshall or a Fender, which has all the components on an eyelet or turret board, with then having wires going to all the components. True point-to-point would just be this resistor goes to the next, there's nothing holding it together, just one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next tube. Most point-to-point, true point-to-point, uses terminal strips like this. And so in this case, this resistor is attached to this tube pin and then goes here. And then another resistor goes to that same point, goes to somewhere else. And this is a fairly easy way to build an amp. You don't have to have specialized boards. It makes service much more difficult because they have multiple wraps around all these things, and I've got to get the solder out and unwrap things. So let's start here. I'm going to start on the plate of V1, pin 6. So I've got the blue wire, which comes to here. Here is the plate resistor from a B plus node. Use the pointer so you can see these things. So the B plus node here, there's a plate resistor. And from here, it goes into the stock tone stack, which we're changing. So there's this resistor here, going to this capacitor, going to this next capacitor and some other stuff. And there's this cap here with this wire that would be feeding the input of the treble pot. So we're going to start by removing a bunch of that solder. We're going to start with these 3 terminal lugs. And I have found that the best way to get the old stuff out is to add a little bit of the new stuff, because the new stuff has got some flux in it and it kind of freshens everything up, makes things flow better. And I can tell just by the way things are behaving that given the number of leads wrapped together and the solder, the terminal lugs size themselves, I need to turn my iron up to a hotter temperature so I can work faster. So I've gone from 700 degrees to about 775, which is, a little over 400 degrees Celsius. So very, very hot. In a second, I'm editing, rendering a video at the same time, and I need to push some buttons on that. I try to multitask as much as possible. Let me normalize that. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. All right, let me save, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. So now my iron has reached temperature. I'm going to go in here with brute force. I'm still waiting on the better solder sucker to arrive. I'm just trying to get a bunch of this stuff out of the way so I can see what's going on. And the way this is built makes it fast to assemble, and it's associated with kind of budget amps from the 50s and 60s by and large. It makes service difficult because if you need to undo one thing from a cluster that has 3 or 4 connections to it, you often have to undo all the connections to get to the one that's buried down at the bottom or in the middle of a jumble of wires and stuff. So once I get the bulk of the solder out like this, I can then see the individual leads. I'm not going to show you this whole process because it just takes too long. And if it's boring for me, it must be excruciating to watch. But I'll get one started there. Let's see if I can get this flathead in there. I cannot. So where is my dental pick? Just to get it started. The trick is to do this without breaking any terminal strips. Yes, meter, I know you're about to shut off. Thank you for wasting energy making beeps to tell me that you're about to save battery life. So much fun. Let's get a little more out of there. It's not wanting to flow out of the middle of this one. There we go. Sorry if the audio goes wonky when I'm leaning down to see. I'm to the side of the phone. This phone used to have an option to record front, back, or Omni. And for some reason, after the last update, it just does Omni. And it is a terrible Omni. I keep meaning to get that lavalier mic, which plugs into the phone. Maybe this video will be the one that makes me do that so the sound stays the same. All right, now I've got that one lead for that capacitor started. I just gotta lever it up a little bit until I can get there. These needle nose pliers. One capacitor. Ha ha ha. All right, maybe it'll be easier now that that big one's out of the way. Get some of the old stuff out of here. So no, point to point, true point to point like this is really not a good thing, because when the amp eventually does need service, as they all eventually will, two components, it becomes very expensive. So you have an inexpensive amplifier that's really suddenly expensive to repair. This is the 50s and 60s version of a Blues Junior. One of the things that makes the Fenders and Marshalls, particularly the Fenders, so good from the 60s is that they were designed to be easy to service. That's why they have eyelet boards. The Marshalls have turret boards. You can get in there and change a component very quickly without unwrapping a bunch of extraneous stuff. Come on, grab that. All right. Three components. All right, that's all three components off this eyelet. I'm sorry, the terminal. Now I've just got to do all these. There's going to be a bunch of this. It takes a while. I'm a patient guy, but man, point to point is really not a good thing. Unless you're doing something just hypercritical, it's a waste. All right, very good progress. I've got the preamp pretty much where I want it to be. Got some changes to do in the power amp section. I've got that one resistor that you can see. Where's my pointer? This 120 ohm 5 watt is the cathode bias resistor. That's up in the air because I wasn't sure if that was going to be the right value, but it puts the amp right at about 12.5 watts with 120 volts main. So yeah, that's going to be perfect. I've got a new capacitor in parallel with it. It's back here. There's going to be a good amount of separation between the two for heat reasons. I've got the preamp all redone with some cathodiene smoothing tricks here for the cathodiene phase inverter. I have not yet adjusted the tremolo speed. I have not yet changed out the main filter caps, and I've not yet put in the grounded power cable. So on that note of not having grounded the power cable yet, you can hear some noise and buzz, which is going to go away when the whole thing is together and the chassis is at ground and the two pieces are joined. For the rest of this video, you're going to hear that stray noise, and that will go away and be a non-issue. So just kind of listen past that. So right now I'm running into its old 10-inch Alnico speaker. that speaker is just about toast. So it's going to get a new one, probably a ceramic. We'll get to the speaker choice later. Let me plug this into my real cab and let you hear what it's really sounding like through my 2x12. I'm leaving this gap here so you can see that nothing was changed. There's no editing. The same settings on the amp. I just took it into standby. Now the same settings. So tons more low end and output through the real speakers. So let me show you what I've got here. I've got volume. Has a lot more gain now. That noise will go away when everything's finished. I still have some grounds to improve in this amp. All right, now let's go back to the clean stuff. Now this treble is now the 5E3 Deluxe tone circuit. I'm going to tweak that a little bit to roll off a little more highs, just because this is not a 5E3 Deluxe. It has different output tubes. Some other things are different. I'd like it to go a little bit darker than that. As far as the treble, that's pretty good. I mean, this is the worst. You never play it like this. But once I get the bass, the high-end roll-off a little bit smoother, a little more, this is going to be a real nice range of controls. Now, on the bass knob, it's getting this chicken head. So we're going to have the two chrome knobs here, the two chrome knobs there. The bass is 3 positions. So all the way to the left is full or slow. In the middle, tighter. You're going to hear that a lot more through the real mic test at the end. And to the right, position 3. Where'd all the low end go? That's actually going to be really useful for the higher gain stuff. Think of it this way, that is a slot in the mix kind of thing. That is not a make it sound beautiful on a Saturday morning at Guitar Center thing. But there are things you can do with that. Which you cannot do with the full lows. So I find that to be a very useful 3-position switch. And it's very Vox-esque. Certainly should be. It's derived from quite a few Voxes. Just they did not have this particular combination of stuff. So let's go back to a nice big clean with the full lows. First video, if you'll remember, the tremolo was extraordinarily weak. And that thudding, again, will be much better when everything is grounded properly. It goes a little too fast and doesn't go slow enough. I'm going to change that. Unless I can get rid of that what throb, which is not too bad, but I can get it better than that. So, you know, we're immensely better than we were at the beginning of this process, when it was just weak and kind of a suggestion of a trim. Awful noise there. That'll go away when we get the new filter caps and I get the grounding neatened up and a lot of that spaghetti out of there. But this is immense progress and really shows how the amp's going to be, and I'm very happy with it so far. So I look forward to getting this thing finished and be something really cool and unique.